Hey everyone, I'm Taylor Edgell for The Scoop. I'm here in Studio B at the Robert Zemeckis Center with the one and only Dana Calvo. Dana, thank you so much for being
Thanks
here.
for having me. Hi.
Hi. Okay, so Dana, I have to talk about your resume. You have one of the most impressive resumes in the TV industry as both a writer and producer on shows like Franklin and Bash, Covert Affairs, and Narcos. I mean, incredible shows. And now you're the creator of your own original Amazon series,
Yeah.
Good Girls Revolt. I mean, what a journey. Could you take us back to the beginning of that, how it all started, where your love for TV came about? Did you have a mentor, anyone like that?
My whole life story in 30 seconds. I was a journalist in my previous life for 11 years. So a Sony executive came to me when I was on Narcos, which was a lot of fun. And I was on Narcos because I speak Spanish and because I cover drug trafficking as a reporter.
Impressive.
So it's like it all helped. But anyway, I got an email from an executive at Sony I'd worked with, and he said, I know you've always wanted to get a journalism show off the ground, and we have the rights to this book, The Good Girls Revolt by Lynn Povich, and she was one of the named plaintiffs in this case. I don't know for anyone out there, the book was about, and the series is inspired by this real life case where I think it was 48 young women, and by young I mean 23 or 24, not much older than you are, at Newsweek magazine, who were told that they could only be researchers or librarians, that the men wrote, and that was a tradition, a very hallowed tradition. And when they learned that it was actually a violation of their civil rights, they were like, they got woke, and they just decided we're going to do something about it. And they filed this complaint against the magazine, and it changed the American workplace. It sparked half a dozen suits in newsrooms across New York in 1970, and it changed the world for me and you.
That's an incredible story. I mean, how did you select the right cast for that? I mean,
oh my gosh, we auditioned dozens, I want to say hundreds, but I don't know if that's accurate, young women, and they were all so excited to have the opportunity to play a role where they weren't just taking their clothes off and being someone's girlfriend, that many of them came knowing all three parts, and they had a change of clothes that they would run into the bathroom and change and then come out and audition as the second lead. And so it was so, I remember even in that audition process feeling like, wow, we might have lightning in a bottle here. This is something special. So it varied.
Awesome. So, I mean, I know in your past positions you've worked on like traditional TV networks. What is it like working with Amazon? I know that's become the new trend.
Yeah.
Have you liked the experience so far?
Well, Narcos was a glimpse of that in terms of writing for streaming, which is great because you can see what actors have chemistry, and then you can sort of goose their storylines or backfill or strip it out. I mean, sometimes you have characters who are talking to one another and it's a dead wire.
Right.
So you want to rethink that storyline. But also there's something really satisfying as a writer to be able to create sort of this full meal of a season and really take characters on a journey that feels satisfying. Instead of, when I've worked on network, and you're like building the plane as you're flying it, and that's the exact opposite in streaming. It's a very thoughtful, deliberate process.
Right. So let's go back to network. I mean, you've worked on some incredible shows. Can you talk more about your experiences with them and, why those experiences have led you to where you are now?
I'm really grateful that I've always worked. I never lose sight of that. I'm always afraid I'm not going to work, that no one will ever call tomorrow.
That's clearly not the case.
Yeah, you'd be surprised. I mean, it's so funny. I'm really grateful. And Franklin and Bash was by far the most fun show I've ever been on. We laughed so hard in that room. And Kevin Falls, who was co-EP on West Wing and won an Emmy for it, great writer. He's now the showrunner of Pitch on Fox. He's now a great friend, but he really was my mentor. And he executive produced my first show on CBS. And he's really guided me and done something uncommon, which is showed me how I hope to work a long time, because you don't burn bridges and you build relationships. So he's great. He's a star.
Right. So obviously, Good Girls Revolt, focuses, as you mentioned, a story of women who face discrimination in the newsroom. Have you, as a 21st century woman, ever experienced it, both in your journalism career and now in your TV industry career?
Yes.
Can you talk
Have
more
you?
about that? I have a little, I'll be honest. I'm actually a journalism major myself, so.
Yeah, I mean, I think it varies from being overt to being sort of the creepy low fever, of chauvinism. But sure. And when I was a journalist, my boyfriend, who was later my fiance and then my husband, he got a promotion. And even though I was the same level reporter as he was at the LA Times at the time, I was an award-winning journalist. I spoke Spanish. I'd covered presidential elections. They said, well, you need to pack up the house and resign and move to Houston and just hang out with him.
Awesome. So going from Narcos to this show, I mean, they are both based off of true
Exactly.
stories. How is that, like, writing for a true story? How do you be creative with that?
Well, for me as a former reporter, it's the best thing because I sort of know, I move through the world knowing that the real stuff you can't make up. It's better than anything we could invent. So what we do is historical fiction. And we, if there are living characters who are depicted, we have to get their estate to sign off. But if they're a public figure like Pablo Escobar, you don't have to. You can take more liberty. In Good Girls Revolt, we have two characters who are real. Nora Ephron, who has since passed away, and whose family gave us her blessing. She's only in 2 more episodes. She's not a huge presence in the series, to be honest. She's played by Grace Gummer, who is amazing and is a series regular on Mr. Robot now and killing it. And then we have Eleanor Holmes Norton, who's now a congresswoman, who was the girl's attorney in real life. And she is played by Joy Bryant, who is on Parenthood and is incredible. And so I have a lovely relationship with the congresswoman, and I would send her pages of scenes with the character of her in it. And she would say, like, yeah, I would say that. I would curse there, I wouldn't curse there. But she was super hands-off. And then the rest, anything goes. It's fiction. So I invented all these characters and their arcs of who they fall in love with. I mean, they're fictional characters falling in love with other fictional characters on fictional adventures. So it's really, and it is just inspired by this real lawsuit, not based on it.
Well, Dana, thank you so much
Thank you.
for being here. It was a pleasure.
Same here.
To talk
Thanks
to
for
you.
having me.
Thank you. And for you guys watching, thank you so much for tuning in. I'm Taylor Edgell for The Scoop.